Take a look around. What do you see? Breakfast cereals, produce that has been imported from all parts of the globe, milk, cheeses, gummy snacks, corn chips, frozen dinners, baked goods, perhaps even a deli. Most of us would simply say, it's food. Well, that may be true, but when you take a closer look behind the flamboyant packaging and deceiving names, you come across a foreign landscape of chemical additives and artificial ingredients. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration deem all of these ingredients generally recognized as safe, and most of them are. But some of them, however, such as preservatives and various artificial colorings, are sourced from chemical and petroleum plants, and have sparked foodborne illnesses in its consumers. Either way, artificial ingredients have provoked debates over public health issues for decades. As the obscurity in what our food ingredients are raises, so does the noticeable health effects with it. Today I'm going to outline some of the various chemicals and additives we see on a daily basis in our meals and hopefully raise some awareness of health risks that develop as a result. One of the most common elements in today's food is MSG. Monosodium glutamate, also known as umami, is a flavor enhancer and naturally occurring amino acid that has been deeply rooted in Asian cuisine. Its origins go back over 1,200 years ago when Asian cooks began adding a type of seaweed found in the Pacific Ocean to their soup stocks. They had discovered that food cooked in the seaweed broth simply tasted better. What the chefs didn't know was that the broth's unique flavor enhancement quality was due to the high levels of naturally occurring glutamate in the seaweed. MSG can be found in almost any packaged food today, namely canned soup, Doritos, as well as fast food. Recent studies have found significant evidence to support MSG's toxic effects on the human body. One such study, published in Nutrition and Metabolism Journal, documented and analyzed the effects of MSG intake on metabolic syndrome within a rural Thai community. Metabolic syndrome is currently considered the most prominent risk factor for cardiovascular diseases worldwide, and despite MSG's optimal safety profile, the study concluded MSG consumption is related to a higher increase in blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, as well as obesity. Although there are no known medical treatments for MSG, the various symptoms that follow overconsumption, commonly referred to as the Chinese restaurant syndrome, include nausea, flushing, chest pain, sweating, and numbness. In a report by CNN, magnesium was listed as one remedy for migraine sufferers, and MSG, which acts as a calcium channel opener in the brain, increasing blood pressure and causes nerve cells to fire on, can overstimulate these cells that receive too much glutamate exposure. Magnesium is the mineral in the nervous system used to switch these taxed nerve cells off, thus easing and reducing MSG's effect. Nonetheless, as the debate continues over the general safety of MSG, leaders on public health consultation, such as the FDA and the World Health Organization, still regard it as a safe product. Added food coloring has been a cultural phenomenon within the food industry since its introduction into foods everywhere. We put dyes in icing to give it that extra dazzle for party guests. It's in virtually every colored confection known to man, including lollipops, Jell-O, and of course, Kool-Aid. Without colored food additives, much of the stuff we eat would essentially be colorless. Just imagine a clear or brownish cola for a second. Many of the colors we have are derived from natural substances like beta-carotene from carrots. And the FDA has approved these naturally derived colorings, which don't need to be labeled on any food label. They're simply called color added, but has a list of 9 other approved artificial color additives, namely blue number 1 and 2, green number 3, orange B, red number 2, 3, and 40, and yellow number 5 and 6. Some common linkages between artificial colorings and hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, in children have been made with debatable conclusions. A study published by Journal of the American Academy of Child-Adolescent Psychiatry came to some mixed conclusions. First off, they found that children put on a restrictive diet free from these dyes had a noticeable decrease in ADHD symptoms, but their trial was not sufficient in finding probable cause of the disorders to be from the colored dyes themselves. Almost as much as we are bedazzled by brightly colored food, the entire world has become infatuated with the seductive notoriety of artificial sweeteners. Both high fructose corn syrup and aspartame dominate the non-diet and diet food and drink realm. So let's start with high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup originates from, as its name ensures, corn, namely cornstarch, which is then broken down into simple glucose molecules through a process of combining enzymes and water. Fructose is a structural isomer of glucose, meaning it has the exact same chemical formula but a different arrangement of the atoms. Several types of high fructose corn syrup exist, distinguished by their fructose content, the most common being high fructose corn syrup 55, meaning it has 55% fructose content in its volume, and was introduced in the late 1970s and is today used in soft drinks across the U.S. From 1977 to 2007, the amount of high fructose corn syrup consumed per capita annually increased from 9.6 pounds to 56.3 pounds. The prevalence of corn syrup sweetened drinks arose from the U.S. tariffs on sugar, making it 1.25 times more expensive than high fructose corn syrup, and fueled by the decline in the market corn price during the middle of the 20th century, which created a boom of overproduction and utilization of corn. High fructose corn syrup became the new, cheaply available standard for sweeteners. The rise in high fructose corn syrup usage in the last few decades may be ubiquitous to the rise of obesity and diabetes levels that we've seen nationwide. Kimber L. Stanhope and Peter J. Havel published their research in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition and concluded the effects of high fructose corn syrup consumption resulted in decreased circulating levels of insulin and leptin when compared with glucose. Because insulin and leptin function as key signals to the central nervous system in the long-term regulation of energy balance, prolonged consumption of diets that are high in fructose could lead to increased caloric intake or decreased caloric expenditure, thereby contributing to weight gain and obesity. Jack Challam, one of the nation's leading health writers, says in his book Stop Prediabetes Now, The Ultimate Plan to Lose Weight and Prevent Diabetes, says that growing prevalence of overweight and obesity correlates with the increase in consumption of high fructose corn syrup. Fructose also increases blood levels of triglycerides, the bad low-density lipoprotein form of cholesterol, and the very bad, very low-density lipoprotein form of cholesterol. Furthermore, it raises blood pressure, which is also associated with overweight and diabetes. And while the FDA continues to advocate high fructose corn syrup's safety of use, maybe it's about time to listen to some of the other experts and researchers on the subject. And the easiest way to negate the effects of cholesterol levels and obesity due to high blood sugar from high fructose corn syrup is to eat a healthy diet of fruits and vegetables, absent of any refined or processed sweeteners. Also, adequate daily exercise is necessary to burn off the excess calories and curb fat buildup. On the other half of the sweetened beverage spectrum is the low-calorie sugar substitute, aspartame. Aspartame was introduced in the mainstream food industry when it became approved by the FDA in 1981. One control study done by the Burdock Group in Washington, D.C. revealed that the weight of existing evidence is that aspartame is safe at current levels of consumption as a non-nutritive sweetener. And as we've seen from high fructose corn syrup, excessive intake of high-calorie, high-glycemic food can result in exaggerated postprandial glucose and insulin levels and potentially lead to metabolic and hormonal changes that stimulate hunger and promote fat deposition. Environmental Health Perspectives published an article by Timothy J. Meyer and Richard J. Wertman. This report describes some of the available evidence that doses of aspartame, which are within the range actually consumed by some people, can affect the chemical composition of the brain and may thereby contribute to the central nervous system side effects, including headaches, inappropriate behavioral responses, and even seizures. In their animal control study, aspartame promoted these seizures by overstimulating the phenylalanine levels, a common amino acid, in lab rats. Obviously, the easiest way to reduce the risk of such health factors is to cut aspartame completely out of the diet. Don't drink diet or sugar-free drinks which substitute their sugar with this chemical. Unfortunately, trials such as this were set in motion and their effects analyzed only after aspartame has been set free to the public domain. While food in our stores becomes more and more refined and processed, the main combatant is proper knowledge and education about these substances, which seem so easily to slip through despite numerous cases against them. I can't stress enough the importance of eating a balanced diet free from manufactured food. Author and food activist Michael Pollan has this to say: If you're concerned about your health, you should probably avoid products that make health claims. Why? Because a health claim on a food product is a strong indication it's not really food. And food is what you want to eat. We are what we eat, and too often this phrase is disregarded as cliche, but with the direction food is now going, it may be more advantageous to visit the local farmer's market than make repeated trips to a doctor's office. Thank you.